Hello. And that produces wonderful Christian apparel. So check out wholestrength.com and use promo code FREED so that you'll receive special discounts and be supporting the work that we do here at Freed Indeed Ministries. I'd also like to remind you guys, as always, to support the Orthodox Diocese of Alaska. I'll have a link in the description below so that you guys can give to the wonderful work that's being done there to help there be Orthodox Christian schools in the native languages, and also to help there be Orthodox Christian priests for the rural villages. So please do give to that wonderful work that's being done up north. With all that said, today's episode of Freed Indeed Live is going to be a continuation of our Royal Passion Bearers series. We've been going through the life and times of the Royal Passion Bearers and correcting the misinformation that has been put out regarding the last Tsar of Russia and his Holy Family. So you'll notice that I'm wearing my awesome Tsar Nicholas II and Alexei Romanov t-shirt. This is my favorite image of my patron saint Tsar Nicholas, and he's with his son Alexei Romanov. So one of my godsons made this shirt for me. It's a wonderful reminder of the great legacy that we have as Orthodox Christians. And so, without further ado, we are in part 3 of this series now. So we've seen the introduction where we talked about the Royal Passion Bearers. We talked about their commemoration in July of 1918, or starting July of 1918. We talked about their the early reign of Saint Nicholas the Passion Bearer, and we've talked about how Saint Nicholas met his wonderful wife, Saint Tsaritsa Alexandra. So now we're going to be talking about the glorification of Saint Seraphim of Serov. And this is really important because this is one of many examples in which Saint Nicholas the Passion Bearer was extremely pious and extremely concerned for issues related to the church. He actually commemorated and more saints during his reign than almost any czar before him, and established more Orthodox churches than, if I remember right, than any czar before him. So he was one of the most pious and humble czars that ever were. And we're going to take a look at this particular example from the life of Tsar Nicholas. And by the way, if you're wondering why we're examining the life of the Holy Romanov family, I would encourage you to go back and listen to part 1 of this series. I'm not going to rehash all of that every time. So go back, listen to part 1, find out the importance of what we're doing in this series, and then, without further ado, the glorification of Saint Seraphim of Serov. During the first 2 years of the 20th century, the Holy Synod of the Russian Orthodox Church several times discussed the possibility of the glorification of the great 19th century ascetic, Elder Seraphim of Serov Monastery. Believing that it was still too soon for such a step, the Synod was hesitant. Tsar Nicholas had no such doubts. In about 1900, he wrote, quote, "As concerns the sanctity and miraculousness of the venerable seraphim, I am already so convinced of this that no one will ever shake my conviction. I have unconquerable proof of it. End quote. By the way, what I'm reading from is The Life of the Royal Passion Bearers, put out by the St. Herman of Alaska Brotherhood. So that's the text that we're going through in this series, if this is your first time. Okay. Veneration for Saint Seraphim was also widespread in Russia by this time, and so the sovereign continually pressured the synod to approve the petition for glorification, which it did finally in 1902. The uncovering of the saint's relics and his glorification were scheduled for July 19th, 1903, Saint Seraphim's birthday. The entire royal family attended and took part in the solemnities, along with almost 500,000 believers from all over Russia. As they approached the monastery on foot, the royal couple was greeted by the nuns of Divyevo convent. Sorry, not covenant, convent. The Divyevo convent, which had been founded by Saint Seraphim. At their head was Elena Motovilova, the wife of Nicholas Motovilov, Saint Seraphim's disciple. She bore a letter that the saint had given to her husband more than 70 years earlier, and which was to be given to the Tsar that presided over his glorification. While the contents remain unknown, it is widely believed that this was a prediction of the calamities that would, before long, befall the Russian land. Saint Seraphim had said at one time, "The Tsar who glorifies me will be glorified by me." Later, during their visit, the royal couple visited the clairvoyant fool for Christ, Paraskeva, Pasha of Serov, and those who saw them afterward described them as pale and shaken. With fervent prayer for the granting of a successor to the Russian throne, Tsaritsa Alexandra bathed in the spring of Saint Seraphim, and the saint clearly heard her prayer. On August the 12th, 1904, Tsar Nicholas and Tsaritsa Alexandra were finally blessed by God with a male child, Alexei Nikolaevich. Their great joy, however, was overshadowed when they learned several weeks later that Alexei was afflicted with hemophilia, a hereditary disease that prevents blood from clotting, and that the slightest injury to the child could prove fatal. This disease was to cause the boy episodes of unbearable physical suffering for the remainder of his brief life, and equally unbearable sufferings of soul to his loving family. So we see in this event, so this was just a short section, but we see in this the great piety of the Romanov family. And we see that once again, as we've seen already throughout the lives of these great martyrs, that their lives were attended by a special sense of God's direction, and even prophetic and sort of visionary events widely attended the life of Tsar Nicholas and his family, such that in this instance, we see that a letter from Saint Seraphim himself was meant to be delivered to the last Tsar, and we don't know what was in that letter, but we do know that Saint Seraphim had predicted that the Tsar who glorified him would himself be a saint, which did end up happening. And there is some implication that Saint Seraphim also understood the tumultuous times that were ahead for Russia. And it sounds like Paraskeva also predicted tumultuous times to come, and this was quite frightening. We also see the beginning of the sort of joy and sorrow that attended the life of Alexei Nikolaevich Romanov. Joy in that there was now a male heir to the throne, but sorrow because he would spend his life being very sickly and would have a very difficult life. But that difficult life was the crucible through which he himself and his family would attain sainthood. So I know this was just a short one this time around. Next time we're going to be looking at the support of the Orthodox Church in favor of the royal family. So stay tuned for that, and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss anything. And God bless. Please do share this with your friends, especially your friends who don't know the wonderful history of Tsar Nicholas II and his holy royal passion-bearing family. God bless.